Hello everyone, Phoenix Knight here. Welcome to the channel, and welcome to a new playthrough on the channel. As you can probably hear, I'm still a little bit under my cold. Through Mystical Munchies last night, it was actually pretty interesting to record through this, but I managed to get through it, so we're going to push through with another video today. Last week we paid a visit to ancient Rome as we played Pandemic Fall of Rome. This week we're going to continue Pandemic Month back to a very familiar setting in the Cthulhu Mythos as we play Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu. As a quick refresher, we're trying to seal gates in the Arkham Files universe, well, the Cthulhu Mythos. That's our one path to victory, is to seal all 4 gates, but there are 4 ways we can lose the game. We lose if we need to place a cultist or a Shoggoth on the board but can't, if Cthulhu wakes up, or if both of our investigators go insane. We are going to be playing with 2 investigators, of course. Now, I'm hoping that Should Mel doesn't stick it to us again, because he stuck it to us twice on the channel. But that's everything set up for the 10,000 foot view of the intro. So let's work our way over to the board and meet today's investigators. Once again, the occultist will be our first investigator. I'll be using the lens cap of the camera to determine turns. There's her mini, which will move up to the train station in Arkham. We'll take a quick look at her sane side. She's got 4 actions for the turn. As an action, she can move a cultist up to 2 spaces, and then for 2 actions, move a Shoggoth 1 space. Then we'll take a look at her starting hand. So first up, we have an Arkham card. Then we have another Arkham, Dunwich, and Innsmouth. So I should mention now the house rule that I'm playing with around the trade action. So as long as the investigators are in the same space, we can trade anything. We can trade anything that we want. Because I've always found that it just takes too much effort to get. If a trade needs to happen, it usually needs to happen about like that. So I've always found that it just takes too much effort to get the investigators into the same city, especially, like I said, when a trade needs to happen instantaneously. So they're both starting in Arkham, but if we need to trade, say, an Innsmouth over, then we have to move everybody over to Innsmouth, and it just takes too much time. So it's easier to house rule to say as long as everybody's on the same space, you can trade whatever. So we'll just use that house rule. It made things a lot easier in Fall of Rome, I think, but we should be fine here. I don't know if it really will add too much to the difficulty of the game, but that's it for the occultist. Let's move over and meet her partner for today. The occultist's partner today is going to be the hunter. So there's the hunter's mini. Basically, if you're familiar with the Arkham Horror Files, think Agnes and Jenny working together. That's probably the closest comparison I can draw. Agnes is the occultist, Jenny is the hunter. So we'll take a look at the hunter. Remove all cultists when doing the defeat a cultist action, and once per turn you may defeat a Shoggoth for only 1 action. Normally it costs 3 actions to defeat the Shoggoth, so the hunter can be very handy there. But let's take a look at the hunter's hand. So first up we have Dunwich, then Arkham, Kingsport, and Dunwich. So a potential first turn play could be organizing the Dunwich cards on the hunter and Arkham on the occultist. We can leave Innsmouth and Kingsport for the time being, but we do need to move up to the board so we can finish setup. I'll just go ahead and organize what we're going to be spawning. So 3, 3, 2, 2, come on, 1, 1, and the Shoggoth. So we're going to draw cards from the cultist deck. The first 2 cards we draw get 3 cultists. So first up, the swamp gets 3 cultists. We also need to keep an eye on how many Shoggoth symbols we draw on the cards. So that's 3 for the swamp and Dunwich. The next one that gets 3 the farmstead, which is right by that. These next two cards get 2 cultists. Secret Lodge gets 2 cultists. Then the Wharf gets 2. That's in Kingsport. And these next 2 actually get 1 cultist apiece. The Historic Inn gets a cultist, and the Factory up in Innsmouth gets a cultist. Then this last one gets the Shoggoth. The Woods gets the Shoggoth, which is right in Kingsport. So, out of the 7 cards we drew, 1, 2, 3, 4 had Shoggoth move. So, a little more than half. That might be something more to keep an eye on when we draw an Evil Stirs and shuffle the deck. So, with that, that's everything set up. So, let's get into this game, and we'll get down to the Occultist. Now, each character will get to take 4 actions. So we can walk, which is moving to an adjacent location. Take a bus, which would be discard a clue card at a bus station to move to any location in that town, or anywhere if the card matches the current town. So say if the Occultist were to discard her Dunwich card, we can move to anywhere in Dunwich. Or if she discards one of her Arkhams, she can move anywhere in Arkham, or anywhere on the board. We can also use a gate. So if we were to move the Occultist over to the park, which is a gate location, we could use that to move between any of our gate locations, but we'd have to roll a sanity die upon getting to our destination. Then give or take a clue or relic card. So as long as that's the house rule I've got, where rules is written, you can only trade the same city. Like, they can only trade Arkham right now, which might be one of my actions. House rule, I'm ruling you can trade anything. Defeat a cultist, which if there's a cultist on your space, remove 1 from your location, except the hunter defeats them all when she does that. Defeat a Shoggoth for 3 actions, which removes it from the location, and you gain a relic. But the hunter does that for 1 action, but we also have to roll a sanity die when the Shoggoth either moves into your space or you move into its space. Or we can seal a gate, where if we have 5 clue cards, we actually get to discard those 5 clue cards to seal the gate, and we remove a cultist from each location in that town. So, coming back to our immediate concern with the game, I think for action 1, we are going to trade Arkham from the Hunter to the Occultist. Action 2, the Occultist will give the Hunter Dunwich. And then what do I want to do for actions 3 and 4? Do we want to pull the Shoggoth, or... No, I don't think we really need to pull the... Shoggoth right now. Unless I want to pull it... Because right now, you guys can't see it. You probably saw it when we were up top for setup. Right now, the Shoggoth would be moving toward the graveyard in Kingsport. If we move it to the Great Hall, actually, that might not be a terrible idea to pull it so it's moving toward Dunwich, get it a little more accessible to us. So I think for actions 3 and 4, that's what we're going to do. We're going to move the Shoggoth down to the Great Hall. The Occultist has that ability where for 2 actions she can move a Shoggoth 1 location. So now after we've done 4 actions, we draw 2 player cards. So first up for the Occultist will be another Dunwich card and another Dunwich. So we can move those over to the Hunter potentially and go seal Dunwich, but we also need 2 Cultist cards. So first up we find University gets a cultist, and the Shoggoth moves. University's right by us, and the Shoggoth moves to the swamp, and the market gets a cultist, which is right on the bus station in Kingsport. Alright, so that will do it for the occultist. Now for the hunter, so what do I want to do here? The question is, can I afford... I don't think I can trade the Dunwich cards over. Actually, no, I think I can do that. So I won't be able to defeat the Shoggoth this turn, but that's probably fine. So I think actions 1 and 2 for the hunter will be to take the 2 Dunwich cards from the occultist, and then we'll move her down to the cafe for 3, and 4 to the church to put her right in the path of the Shoggoth, and then we need 2 player cards, one of which will probably be discard fodder. So first up is another Kingsport card, and this one's going to trigger discarding because our hand limits 7 cards, and Arkham, which I will actually discard because the occultist has our 3 Arkham cards. So the first cultist invasion, the Great Hall gets a cultist, and the Shoggoth moves. And the Docks gets a cultist, and the Shoggoth moves again. Now we might need to be a little bit careful with this because remember, we can lose the game if we have no cultists to spawn, but since the Shoggoth moved into the hunter's space, we do need to roll a sanity die. We're also drawing a lot of Shoggoth movement, so once we draw an Evil Stirs, we might have a problem with getting that Shoggoth moving very quickly. So we'll go ahead and roll this out. And the hunter loses 2 sanity. How fun. We're off to a great start there. Whoa. Now I just sent sanity tokens flying everywhere. Okay, I'm going to just leave those and leave 2 here. Right, so now we can definitely move the hunter and seal Dunwich next turn, but we can get that a shot. And then it's the occultist's turn here. So action 1, I think we're just going to go babysit some cultists. So action 1, we're going to move... actually, let's do this. For action 1, we'll move this cultist from the park to the park and then the university, because as an action, she can move a cultist up to 2 locations, then 2 to the university, 3, 4 to defeat both of them. So 2 cards from the deck now, the player deck. We find Kingsport and Dunwich, which will probably be travel fodder once the hunter's turn is over. So we need 2 cards from the cultist deck. We find the pawn shop, and the Shoggoth moves again. That's a problem. So pawn shop and the Shoggoth is on the gate. And the park gets a cultist, which is on top of the gate in Arkham. So for the hunter's turn, action 1, she's going to move into the old mill, which means we're going to need to roll the sanity die again. Put the dice tower there this time. There's the lid for the cup. Nothing happens this time, thankfully. Action 2, she'll pick off the Shoggoth. Actually, action 2 will discard the 5 Dunwich clue cards to put a seal on Dunwich, which will then remove a cultist from each location in the town. So that frees up 3 cultists. Action 3 now will defeat the Shoggoth, and we'll draw a relic card for the hunter. She will draw Elder Sign. Pick a town. If its gate has been sealed, no new cultist or Shoggoth may be placed in that town. As a reminder, flip the seal token to show the Elder Sign. So we'll show one we haven't used yet. So we've got the normal seal side. And then it flips over to show the Elder Sign, which means nothing can spawn there. Which might be tempting to use, but I'm getting a little ahead of myself there. Okay, that was action. Action 1 was to move in. Action 2 to defeat the Shoggoth. No. Action 2 to seal the gate. Action 3 to defeat the Shoggoth. Action 4, she'll move back to the church. And then we need 2 new player cards from the deck. So first up we find our first Evil Stirs, which will move back up top to resolve in a second, and Kingsport. So let's move back up top to resolve the Evil Stirs. The hunter needs to roll the sanity die first for Evil Stirs. Find the lid here. Here we are. Loses another sanity. That's a problem. Reveal the next ancient one. So our next ancient one. Shudemel is rearing his ugly head right now. But he's going to cause us a lot of problems because the players collectively lose 3, 4, or 5 sanity tokens with 2, 3, or 4 players. I think for now we'll have the occultist eat that. Which brings us down to 1 sanity right off the bat. Then we draw the bottom card, and I think, is this 3 cultists or a Shoggoth? I think it's actually a Shoggoth. Draw the bottom card and put a Shoggoth there. It would help if I actually read the card. So this location is getting a Shoggoth. The theater is getting a Shoggoth. So that goes here in Kingsport. Then the cultists regroup, so we'll shuffle the discard pile. And we'll put it back on top. I'll put that to the side. And then we need 2 fresh cards off of the top of the deck. So first up we find the Market gets a cultist, as does the Swamp, and the Shoggoth moves. So the Shoggoth will be moving toward the Kingsport gate down here at the graveyard. And with that, it's the occultist's turn, so let's move down to set occultist. I want the occultist to stay put in Arkham, just in case we find the 2 Arkham cards we need quickly. So we'll just go ahead and babysit up here a little bit. Action 1 will move to the park. Action 2 will defeat this cultist. Action 3 to the Secret Lodge. Action 4, defeat that cultist. So 2 cards off the top of the deck for the occultist. We find Dunwich, which we don't really need. Would probably be discard fodder, if anything. Last Hourglass. The active player may take any clue card from the player discard pile. We may need that. We may use that if we find another Arkham card, but we'll discard Dunwich. And then we need 2 cultists from the top of the deck. The Secret Lodge gets a cultist, and the Shoggoth moves, so that's another one on top of the occultist. The Shoggoth is over at the wharf. And our second card the park gets a cultist as well. So that effort that the occultist just went to babysitting Arkham, yeah, didn't really do anything. With that, we can go down to the Hunter, who'll be doing a lot more in terms of babysitting cultists this turn. So action 1, she'll move down to the farmstead. Action 2, she'll blast the 2 at the farmstead. Action 3 to the swamp. Action 4, swamp cultists go bye-bye. So 2 more cards from the deck. Here we find Arkham. So we might want to try to get the 2 of them together, and Kingsport. So yeah, I think we want to try to get the 2 of them together in the next couple of turns. But we need 2 cards from the cultist deck. So first up we find the pawn shop gets a cultist and the Shoggoth moves, which is bad because that's going to put the Shoggoth on the graveyard. So if we draw another Shoggoth moves, then we're going to be awakening another Ancient One, and the Woods gets a cultist, and God apparently doesn't listen when I'm talking about something hypothetical. Usually it's rhetorical, not hold my beer, but the Shoggoth comes off the board, and we awaken our next Ancient One. So our next Ancient One, Alak Naka. Each investigator puts 1 cultist on their location unless they choose to lose 1 sanity. An investigator may not lose their last sanity token to prevent this cultist replacement. So basically, which isn't that bad right now, because they're both on 1 sanity, so they both have to place a cultist on their space. That is rather unfortunate, but no help for that. Over to the occultist's turn, we'll just tip the camera up a touch. Actions 1 and 2, we'll blast those. Action 3 to the park. Action 4 will take out this cultist. So 2 cards from the player deck. We find Arkham. Okay, this is helpful. We'll discard the Dunwich we don't need. And Kingsport, which will discard... We'll discard the Kingsport that we just drew because we don't really need it right now. And then 2 cards from the cultist deck. We find the Factory gets a cultist, as does the Docks. The Shoggoth would move, except it just got off the board. So the Docks gets a cultist. Okay, over to the Hunter we go. Unfortunately, I think this is going to be a long-form travel turn for the Hunter, because I don't want to lose any of our clue cards right now, unless I potentially move her toward Kingsport Longway in case she draws a Kingsport and start working cultists along the way. That actually might not be a terrible idea. So I can move 1, 2, 3, blast 4. Because again, I only need 1 more Kingsport card, and then I can plan on pincering an Innsmouth, hopefully. But let's see how this unfolds first. So I think we are going to go with that plan of 1, 2, 3, blast 4 for the Hunter. So we'll need 2 cards from the player deck. First up, the Hunter finds an Innsmouth, which we 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Which we should start trying to accumulate some Innsmouth cards, and another Arkham, which we will... I could use that to travel and get the Hunter to Arkham so we can immediately organize the cards we need. We've only drawn, I want to say, like 2 Innsmouth cards all game, so there should be more Innsmouth cards coming, which means I'll keep Arkham to travel with right now, and then I'll discard Innsmouth. Then 2 player cards from the top, so new cultists we find. The University gets a cultist, and the Wharf gets a cultist, so right in the Hunter's path. So moving back to the Occultist, Unfortunately, we didn't draw the card we... Well, actually, no. I don't think we actually need to get them together because, yep, there's an Arkham Clue card in the discard pile, so I'll actually use the last Hourglass for the Occultist to grab that back. But because I used a relic, I have to roll a sanity die. And here I wouldn't mind rolling a sanity result here, because then I can restore her to full sanity when I close the gate. So of course nothing happens, naturally. But I will go ahead and discard the 5 Arkham Clue cards to seal the Arkham Gate, so that's action 2. Action 3, which that also removes a cultist from the University. Then action 3, do we start moving her toward Innsmouth? I think we do. So action 3 to the Secret Lodge, action 4 to the Diner. Then 2 player cards from the top. So first up we'll find Song of Kadath. No sanity roll required to play this card. Choose one. All players regain 1 sanity token, or 1 player regains full. I will immediately dump that. So each player regains 1 sanity. And Arkham, which we can now use actually as travel fodder. So that actually kind of works out very nicely. And then 2 player cards we find the Historic Inn gets a cultist. That's done in Dunwich right here. And the Great Hall gets a cultist. The Shoggoth would move, except there are no Shoggoths on the board right now. So moving down to the Hunter, the Hunter will move 1 to the Wharf, 2 to blast all 3 of these cultists. And then for 3/4, I don't want to drift her too far from the... gate right now, so 3/4, I guess. We'll plan on babysitting Kingsport a little bit. So 2 player cards for the... actually, wait a minute. Okay, 1, 2, 3, then 4 to travel to Arkham, maybe? Actually, that might be... a better plan, because she's actually got an extra Arkham card anyway that she can use to travel. Yeah, I think that's a better idea. So, 1, 2 to blast the cultist, 3, then we'll pitch an Arkham to move her up to... We'll move her up to the Diner with the Occultist. That way we can get the last Kingsport card we need over, and then get the Hunter back to Arkham, or back to Kingsport. So, 2 cards from the deck. Evil Stirs, which we'll have to move back up top to resolve, and Zeus Mirror. You can swap a clue card from your hand with a clue card from another player's hand, regardless of where either of you are. So if we need to split them up for some reason, we could have done that, but we need to move back up top to resolve this evil stirs. Alright, first of all, roll a sanity die. This is for the hunter's turn. I forgot to move the camera lid. That's acting as the lens cap, which is acting as my turn indicator. Nothing happens there. Awakening the next ancient one, we find Azathoth. So we remove 3 cultists from the unused supply. That's not too bad right now. Then we find a Shoggoth, so the Shoggoth is moving. The Shoggoth is spawning at the junkyard, which actually is a pretty good ways away from the Innsmouth gate. So we'll shuffle these up. And we'll put these back on top. So the Shoggoth here is actually moving toward the Innsmouth gate at the hospital. So 2 summoning cards from the deck. Cultist spawns at the pawn shop, and the Shoggoth moves down to the pawn shop. And the Historic Inn gets a cultist, and the Shoggoth moves to the hospital. So that will do it for the turn. For the hunter, let's move down to the occultist. We should be able to just zoom in from here. Yep. Okay, so action 1. Actually, in order to free something in the hand, I'm going to need to bring the dice tower back in shot, because I am going to need to use the Elder Sign here. We just shuffled a fair amount of... What did we just shuffle a fair amount of? I think we just shuffled a fair amount of Dunwich back into the deck. So I'm going to use the Hunter's Elder Sign to pick a town. The Dunwich Gate has been sealed, so we're going to use that, which means no new cultist or Shoggoth may be placed there. So we'll flip that. So we'll flip the Dunwich seal to its Elder Sign side, but we need to roll the sanity die for the Hunter. The Hunter loses his sanity, goes down to 1, which I kind of don't mind that completely. But, let's see, I think for actions 1 and 2, we'll trade Kingsport. I think for action 1, we'll trade Kingsport over to the Hunter, and then she's actually all set up, assuming we don't get a surprise awakening of, I think Yig's the only ancient one that would screw us up on this. So I think with that in mind, I'm going to move Arkham over to the Occultist for action 2. Action 3... I think action 3 and 4, we're actually going to pull the Shoggoth back toward the pawn shop, so we don't just... So movement doesn't just send it off the board. So 2 cards from the player deck, we find Innsmouth, which we might be starting to concentrate on the Occultist, and Arkham. Alright, 2 cards from the Occultist deck. Wait a minute, I needed... Oh, shoot, I needed that Arkham card. I'll have to trade that back. But anyway, Cultist 1. The University gets a Cultist, and the Shoggoth moves. University's up here. Fortunately, we pulled the Shoggoth off of the Innsmouth gate, but it might not matter. And the Wharf gets a Cultist. Okay, so let's fix that derp on action 1 for the Hunter's turn. This is my own stupidity. So action 1, I do need to trade Arkham back over, which for action 2, I will immediately discard that to bring the hunter, we can move her to any location when it matches the... If the card matches your current town, yes. So the hunter will move straight to the graveyard. Action 3 will discard the 5 Kingsport cards to seal the Kingsport Gate, which gets a cultist off of each location in Kingsport. And then Action 4 will move up to the wharf. Then we need 2 player cards for the hunter. We find Dunwich and Innsmouth. Alright, so now we're going to be looking for like a little pincer as we bring everybody up to Innsmouth. So 2 cards from the cultist deck. The Great Hall gets a cultist and the Shoggoth comes off the board. So we get our next ancient one. Our next ancient one is Dagon. Place 1 cultist on each gate location, open or closed. Alright, so the park... The old mill is sealed, so no new cultists can be placed there. Hospital and graveyard. Let's see. Okay, that was the Great Hall. Got the cultist. I gotta look at something here. So, what I need to figure out is if we awaken during summon cultists, would we immediately observe the new limit, or would we observe the new limit starting this turn, or would that be the next? I'll look up a ruling on that, but for now I'm going to rule that I'm hacking up a lung, but for now, I'm going to rule that we observe the old limit and we observe the new one starting next turn. So the second card here. The swamp gets another cultist. Alright, so our supply of cultists is starting to get a little bit perilously low, but we're not too bad here. Alright, for the occultist, we'll move our action 1 to the junkyard, 2 to the pawn shop, 3, 4 to get rid of 2 cultists from the pawn shop. And then 2 player cards. We find Innsmouth. Okay, this is working out nicely. And Kingsport, which that isn't working out great. But now we need 3 cards from the summoning deck. We find the factory gets a cultist, so that's up to 3 now. The docks gets a cultist, and the secret lodge gets a cultist. Okay, so the hunter... We need to start babysitting these cultists. We need to start knocking Innsmouth down. So, action 1 will move over to the market. Action 2 will toss Innsmouth to move to, I think it's any location in that town. Yes. So we'll move to the factory. Action 3 will blast these 3 cultists. Action 4 will move to the boardwalk. Plan on moving down to the docks next turn. And then 2 cards from the deck the hunter finds. Another Innsmouth, so that worked out, and Kingsport, which isn't working out. And then 3 cards from the deck, from the cultist deck, we find the market gets a cultist. Wait, we shouldn't have spawned, hold on. Okay, let me finish this up, and then I got to double check, because we sealed Dunwich completely a couple turns ago, and I don't think the park gets a cultist, and I don't think we should have had the junkyard gets a cultist. I think one of these locations at least shouldn't have gotten a cultist on it. The swamp, I think, is the location that I'm trying to remember how long ago it was that... I think it was a couple... I think it was a few turns ago. So 3 we just did. 2... I think at the very least the swamp shouldn't have a cultist on it because of the elder sign. Didn't mean to jar the camera there. Okay, so we're back over to the occultist's turn. We've got 4 Innsmouth cards right now between us. So I think we'll start moving the... I think we'll start getting everything set up here to try to win the game on probably the occultist's turn. So action 1, she'll defeat the cultist at the pawn shop. Action 2 to the factory, 3 to the boardwalk, 4 to take Innsmouth from the hunter. Then 2 player cards, we find Evil Stirs, which we'll have to move back up to resolve, and our 5th Innsmouth. So we'll discard Kingsport, and then if this doesn't go sideways, we should be able to win on our next turn. But let's move back up top to resolve the Evil Stirs. Didn't realize we had the occultist and the hunter off shot, so they're over here at the boardwalk. But we do need to roll the sanity die. The occultist loses 1 sanity, which isn't that terrible. Then our next ancient one is Ithaca. To walk out of a location with 2 or more cultists, a player must first defeat a cultist at that location, which that isn't that bad right now. Then we get a Shuggoth appearing from the bottom card of the deck. We find the hospital gets a Shuggoth. Oh, that's right on top of the gate that we're trying to seal too. That's gonna be fun. So we're actually in a fairly perilous position right now, because we're about to draw 3 summoning cards. If we have 2 awakenings, we just lose the game on the spot. And there is very real potential for having 2 awakenings right now, because we do have 1 location that's getting ready to go off, and then a Shuggoth movement does another awakening. And I think we can... Basically, we have to duck Catastrophe in 6 cards. So our first card up. The park gets a cultist. We're also running perilously low on cultists, but if we get to the hunter's turn again, then we'll be able to babysit some cultists and get some off the board. The woods gets a cultist, except the Shuggoth moves. Woods is down here, so the Shuggoth comes off the board, and we got our second to last ancient one. We find Yig. Sealing gates requires 1 clue card from a connected town. We can also deal with that, probably. We'll have to spend an extra action. And the farmstead gets a cultist, except Dunwich is sealed by an elder sign, so it doesn't get anything. That was helpful. Then we'll zoom in. We'll make sure we get them in shot this time. It'll be the hunter's turn. For action 1, thanks to Yig. Now, actually, no. We're actually fine on that one, because the occultist has 2... The occultist actually has 2 Arkham cards, so we're actually golden there. So for action 1, the hunter will move down to the docks. Action 2, she'll defeat all 3 of those cultists, which will hopefully help us dodge a bullet there. Action 3... What is our action 3 right now? I don't think we really have any more actions right now, so I think she'll just go on cultist detail. Action 3 to the woods. Action 4, defeat this cultist. Then 2 player cards. Basically, we're hoping that we need to duck one. There's 1 whammy now we need to duck, and I think the park is in the... Yeah, the park is in the discard pile, so we're not in danger of having that go off. So basically, right now, here's our no whammy, no whammy, no whammy moment. First player card up. Innsmouth. and Innsmouth. Okay, so I think we ducked it here. But we need 3 cards from the Cultist deck. First up, the Theater gets a Cultist. Right down here. Card 2. The Church gets a Cultist, except no it doesn't because of the Elder Sign on Dunwich. And the Train Station gets a Cultist, which doesn't cause any of the locations to explode, so we'll move over to the Occultist's turn. Action 1, Action 2, Hospital 5 Innsmouth, and we need an Arkham thanks to Yig, but there's everything we need. Oop. That's everything we need to seal Innsmouth. We'll take the Cultist off the board, and then we have won the game, so let's move back up top to wrap this video up. We definitely had a near catastrophe as we were looking at sealing Innsmouth. I was worried about getting another Docs card, which I don't think... Oop, those should have been... Okay, I think we had the... Oh, I think I had to pick them up and look at them, but I put them down on the discard pile, or on the... I put them down face down. But yeah, we'd ended up with the... I think we ended up with the Docs in the discard pile before we went and dealt with that catastrophe. So we were definitely close. The last ancient one would have been Cthulhu and we would have lost the game, but we did manage to duck it there. Now I'm curious about where the last Evil Stirs was. I'm hoping it got shuffled. Okay, yeah, it did get shuffled nice and deep. So we definitely had a lot of time on that. But with both of our investigators on the verge of insanity, we managed to dodge the bullet there. And that's the first time on the channel that we've won Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu, and Should Mel actually didn't manage to stick it to us this time, even though he really wanted to. But that will do it for this playthrough of Pandemic Reign of Cthulhu. Next week, Wednesday, we're going to play Call to Adventure, and then next week we'll finish Pandemic Month as we play World of Warcraft, Wrath of the Lich King in the Pandemic Universe. Thank you for watching the video. Please give the video a thumbs up and subscribe to the channel. Be sure to turn on notifications so you get my content. Be well, stay safe, take care of yourselves and your loved ones, and I'll be back with more videos in the future. Until then, take care everyone.